Hey there, I'm Rebecca. Welcome to Taco Tuesday, where we talk about good food, fitness, and everything in between. Our goal with these live talks is to provide high value information, and we also give you some action items at the very end that you can take home with you and implement to make some changes. So stick around for those.
Stick around for those. I'm Brandon. If you're with us live on Facebook, either in our Just for Fun group, Drop the Fat, Not the Tacos, or in our Clean Club group coaching group. That name's going to change, by the way, in the future. So just a heads up to you guys.
Changes are coming.
Changes are coming. But whether you're in one of those groups or if you're listening from somewhere else on a streaming platform, let us know you're here. Of course, if you're streaming later, you're going to have to come over to Facebook and say hi if you want to be part of the conversation. So highly recommend. Do that.
Yeah,
Let's just jump into it. What are we talking about today?
Well, so I've mentioned in our previous talks a little bit about my journey. I've tried a lot of different diets. I've tried workouts and programs before I started working with Brandon at Contra Costa Fitness. And the biggest problem that I had personally from the beginning of trying to find a fitness program, not the diets and everything, but the fitness itself, it was a routine that worked for me, like something in fitness that worked for me. And I had no idea what I was doing. I was a ballerina, not a bodybuilder. So you put me in a gym and I don't know what's happening. So I took a variety of classes at the gym around the corner from work, got up at 5 a.m., did that every day.
Super fun.
Every day. I tried circuit training gyms. I tried a different type of studio classes. I tried body pump, but I stopped all of them because I didn't feel stronger in my day-to-day life. I thought things in my life would be easier if I got fitter, like climbing the stairs or getting up off the floor or lifting things, the sort of things you would expect to be able to do if you did actually get stronger. Now, I could lift a pretty heavy barbell over my head, but if you asked me to pick up or carry something heavy, it wasn't happening. So it was super defeating and definitely did not contribute to my willingness to give up easily. I saw no point to all this work, none whatsoever. Getting up early morning just felt like it was a waste of time. I'm still out of shape. I still can't do things until I met a certain person with slightly different perspectives.
Yeah, a little different perspective. Yeah, well, like that's super discouraging, right? You're like going and doing all the stuff and it's super hard, right?
Yes.
It's what we talk about all the time, right?
Hard work, you sweat.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And you're just relying on willpower. You're like, I'm freaking miserable. This sucks. I better see some results.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes even if you get the results that you're looking for, you're miserable. You're still suffering through your day-to-day stuff. So yeah, I mean, a lot of my perspective, of course, comes from the physical therapy world. But also now as someone who's not a 20 or 30-year-old trainer or exerciser, right? Like my own body is changing. Like things are different now. But my nature is definitely to like go hard and suffer through it. And, I grew up like most people of my generation, in the whole no pain, no gain mindset. And, I really believe in doing hard things and embracing challenge. I think that's, perhaps comes from being an athlete, but I do really still believe in that. I think it's important, but I have to accept a certain reality, right? Like personally that
do we have to accept it?
I know. Shit.
I guess we do. All right. We're getting old.
Right. My body's not always up for, certain things anymore, and injuries take longer to heal, and they could be lifelong, and I value different things. Like you said, like I need to see some stuff in my daily life. Like, I'm getting older. I'm like, I get up off the floor and I'm like, ooh, I'm a little bit creaky or whatever. It's like, getting out of a low car, just stuff like that. Like I know that like I sound like an old person when I say that, but I guess I'm
kind of an old person.
Stop. But yeah, and then from a coaching perspective and from the perspective of someone who worked in the healing arts, I just see the body differently. and I think I know what it's capable of, and what can happen to it, right? So, so much of what I see people struggle with, though, is motivation, right? Like, and developing a healthy relationship with movement. I think that's really a big part of what we're talking about today. Is like when movement feels pointless, it's not motivating, right? We have no connection to it, right? Like you were doing all this stuff at the gym and you're like, this sucks, right? Like this is painful,
it's doing nothing.
Super hard, and I'm not like, what the hell? Like I still carry the groceries and I'm like, like overwhelmed, right? So that's discouraging.
Yeah.
And that's probably the biggest barrier to people finding success, because success is dependent upon consistency.
True. Right? So going back to functional fitness, it's pretty easy to listen to that functional fitness and get a really good idea of what it is, right? It's fitness geared towards functioning. There, I explained it. Okay, no more questions. We're moving on, right?
Over, done. Yeah, like so not sexy.
Yeah, right? It's perfect. But fully explained and moving on. No, I'm just kidding. It makes sense when you think about what it's called, and understanding what it is and applying functional fitness is very different. Why don't you tell us about some of those basic movements of functional fitness so it makes a little bit more sense?
All right. So the basic movements, right? And you'll hear them.
This is your jam. You love this.
You'll hear them called different things. Yeah. So we've got like an upper body push and a pull, right? A squat, a lunge, a hip hinge, rotation. I place rotation in those, like you'll hear them called the foundational movements and other things, but some people don't include rotation. I think rotation is particularly important.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, rotation and carrying. So yeah, the big ones: push, pull, squat, lunge, hip hinge, rotation. I'm up here. Rotation and carry. I like to include vertical lifting, like lifting overhead, and vertical pulling as well, like pulling yourself up from, I don't know, it could be from the floor, it could be a number of things. But, and we can go further and further, right? Like running, jumping, crawling, climbing, like those are very functional things. Those are very real and can be important. But those first like foundational 7 movements are where a lot of those more complex movement patterns start.
Yeah.
Right. But so, it's so much more. Like our bodies have a million different functions and things that we're capable of doing. And that's where things get really fun for me. Like my functional needs are different from your functional needs.
Totally.
We have like a foundation of functional needs, right? We all need to be able to get up off of the floor. We all need to be able to like squat low and get things. All of us need to be able to do those.
Yes.
But yeah, a lot of people think that functional fitness just means doing those basic movements, and I kind of disagree.
I'm not really sure. I think I disagree on that.
Right, sure. Like those things will cover a lot of ground. It's a great place to start. It is, they are foundational. But we combine those movements, right, to make those other functions happen. And any movement that has meaning, right, to your life falls under functional fitness to me. Maybe it's work specific, maybe it's sport specific. And there's some wiggle room there in sports, right? And there's a lot of sports we can't do forever, but if it means a lot to you, then it's an important function.
For sure.
Maybe it's activities of daily living, right? That's what most people think of, right? And that's where a lot of my expertise comes from as well. But it's mostly from getting people back to function, being able to do what they love to do.
Yep.
Right. That's what functional fitness is all about. That's my whole, that's my world. That's me. Maybe it's playing with your kids, whatever means something to you. But it's everything. And when it has meaning, again, it's motivating, and
for sure
it becomes less of a chore and more of an opportunity. Right. So now it becomes something that we want to do, not to mention it's more fun than traditional gym exercise to me.
It is.
Like, I love pushing things like the sleds in here. Like, I love pushing the sleds, pulling the sleds, getting up and down and jumping onto stuff, moving my body rather than just plain moving weights, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, bodybuilders and fitness competitors, though, like, they do what they do because they love it, right? They've found meaning in that, and it feeds them. And there's, a big, long, conversation around that as well. Like, what's that feeding? But that's fine. Like, if that's your passion, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's no substance in those types of things for you, then you can't expect to do exercise specific to that.
Right.
Which is the definition of exercise my generation, most of us were given, right? Was like, traditional gym exercise, as most of us were taught to think of it, is pretty much based on bodybuilding.
Yep.
So you can't expect to stick with that. It's always going to be a battle, right? If you don't love or at least appreciate something about it and find meaning in it. I feel like I've been talking forever.
It's okay. You got good stuff to say. But, when we were preparing for this talk, I was actually thinking a lot about my 5 a.m. fitness days, and we talked about it a lot. And in one of my many attempts to find a way to lose weight, that's what I was doing, was I was trying to lose weight. I wasn't trying to build muscle. I wasn't trying to necessarily be stronger, although that would be nice. But I wanted to lose weight. So what I did was I took a whole bunch of classes like Body Pump, and they were all geared towards weightlifting. That's going to work, right? I felt super strong in the class because here I am, this tiny little thing, 5'3", and I'm lifting some pretty hefty weights for this tiny little person. But then I would get out into reality, and I could definitely lift heavier objects than before, but to a point. I couldn't take them very far, so I couldn't bend and lift a heavy box. That wasn't going to happen. I couldn't climb the stairs without getting winded, and I certainly couldn't carry those heavy things for very far. And because I thought I was stronger than I was from lifting weights, I would try to pick things up and carry things, and I would injure myself because I had an injury to my back and just make things worse. It did not make me feel stronger at all. Yeah. Not a pinch in my daily life. It made me feel like crap because I'm doing all this work and nothing happened.
Well, there's so much to it, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and Body Pump is fun, right? Like, it's some people love it, right? But yeah, it's just not. That's definitely not in the realm of functional fitness, right? Like, not even close, really. Mm-mm. But nothing against it. Like, if that's what motivates you, you love that, then that's awesome, right? If you love to dance, then you should dance, right? But there's like there's a lot that goes into functional fitness, right? Like, you didn't develop any mobility, which was a big issue for you. You didn't develop any stability, which is another like big component to functional fitness. Right. I mean, we can talk about all kinds of things that make us functional, but mobility and stability are like the two biggest ones. And you're not going to get those from, it's like I was talking to our skater friend here who was like just killing it on the box jumps earlier, but like, getting up and down and like pulling himself around. Like, it's great to be super functional within your, whatever it is, your sport or your passion. Right. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. But we got to think about some other things as well. Yeah. So we get super hung up on doing whatever we think will make us lose weight or change our body composition. Exactly. Right. That's where you were.
Yep, that's where I was.
So naturally we think, right, if we do what fitness competitors do.
Yeah, I'm going to look fit. I'm going to lose weight and I'm going to look like that.
Well, and now what fitness influencers do, right? Like, we have so much of it's like right in the Mm-hmm. I mean, it's in our face every day, like all the time, right? Like, back in the day, if you were to look for someone, you'd just be like, like the first trainers were like, well, who's the most like, who do I want to look like at the gym?
Right.
I'm going to go pick that person's brain, right? And now it's become this crazy industry. And now that person, that 19, 20-year-old person from the gym is like in front of the camera and like coming to you all the time, and we think that we're supposed to do what they do.
But
the truth is
And then
that it's not necessarily about the type of exercise we do, or you know that's not necessarily what brings us closer to our goals, but the consistency.
right.
Right, the type of exercise we do is important for other reasons, but having meaning helps us develop the consistency, like I said earlier, right? Like we talk about all the time, and the consistency is what brings us what we want.
Mm-hmm.
And very few of us have the willpower to do things that make us absolutely freaking miserable.
I don't even have that
We-
kind of willpower.
well, we think we need more willpower. That's what we always think,
Mhm.
right? Like, I need more willpower if I just had the discipline, when what we need is connection and meaning,
Right.
right? It needs to matter. So, there is really good news though around that, right? You can have, like, that's what's awesome about functional fitness, is you can have meaning in your movement,
Right.
right? And still make huge progress toward goals that involve body composition and strength and other things, because it uses functional fitness utilizes compound movements mostly, meaning we move more than one set of joints at a time, which means we use more muscles and we use our biggest muscles. And that means that we burn a lot of calories while we're doing this stuff, right? And that's what you learned.
Yes. And so now that we have a very clear understanding of what functional fitness really is, why in the world, we've talked about it a little bit, but why would it be so important to incorporate this into your fitness routine? That's the question, right? If I already have a fitness routine, I'm lifting weights, I'm doing fine. Why don't we start with an example? So, like, tell me why push-ups, those ungodly things that are so important for functional fitness, even if we're lifting weights, why should we do push-ups? Why is that important?
Well, it's important to be able to get up off the ground, right?
Remember those commercials from the 80s?
Right? Yeah, pushing oneself off the ground is pretty important, especially as we age, and it ties into plenty of other functional things that we may need to do. Like, ground mobility is super important, right? Like, maybe you need to get under something like a low car or something. Maybe you want to be able to get down on the ground with your kids. It's related to crawling, and there are benefits beyond, the functional applications as well, in terms of like core strength, right? And joint stability, which is useful in like everything we do.
Yep.
Right. And if we don't, these are things like, a lot of the stuff that I just mentioned, like, I don't know, like, how often do I have to like get under a car? Well, a lot, I don't know. Like, I dropped my phone the other day getting out of my car, and it like, boom, like skidded
Right
off underneath my car. Yeah.
Yep.
And I was like, no. And then I was like, well, thank God I know how to do this. And I got down under the car and I grabbed it. Those things happen, right? We all are going to end up on the ground unintentionally at some point. Like, sorry, that's happening, everyone. Like, you're
Heads
going,
up, it's happening.
heads up, it's coming. Your next fall is coming. Yeah, it's happening. And so, if we don't practice what to do when we're down there, especially, it's not going to feel necessarily the same as, how we practice it. Right. Uninjured. You want to be strong. You want to be good at that. Right. Because chances are it's going to count, at some point. So, if we broaden that push-up movement, right, and step it back to just pushing, right, it's good to be able to, like, so a push-up is, am I going to get too like technical, but a push-up is a closed chain movement. Our hands are planted, we're moving our body. An open chain movement would be like pushing something off of us,
right,
moving an object, right? And so that is extremely important as well. We need to be able to push objects. I had to move my fridge the other day. It was not awesome, but it was not unbearable because I practice that stuff. Right. Not specific. I don't sit at home and like push my fridge like back and forth.
Yeah, we just do that on Sundays. Just move
Sundays. We have a fridge over there, guys. No, but a single-handed pushing. We may not be able, may not need to do those things daily, but they'll come up. And if we don't practice them, we suck at them. We won't be able to do them, or we injure ourselves trying, right?
Exactly. And then going back to what I mentioned earlier about lifting heavy boxes and injuring my back. Well, lifting a heavy barbell over my head for 5 seconds or so is not going to help me bend down, carry things, and do anything really to make that aspect of my daily life easier. However, in taking the classes with you and at Contra Costa Fitness for as long as I have, focusing on squats and lunges in particular has made it so much easier for me to function daily. Not to mention being able to lift super heavy objects off the floor, then carry heavy things for a long time. One time, it was a few weeks ago, there were no grocery carts at the store, and I needed to get things and I was in a hurry. So I had to carry 3 cases of sparkling water in one arm and a shopping basket in the other. And I didn't even start getting weary as I approached the checkout counter, and everybody was looking at me like I was crazy, but I could do that because I prepared for it.
Right.
Nice and strong.
That's awesome, right?
Yeah.
That's totally the point. Yeah. Like, I love that. Like, I carry like 3 bags of dog food on my shoulder up to the counter, and the guy's like, whoa.
Do you need help with that?
Yeah.
No, I'm good.
It's like, are you sure? Because you're like 2 feet tall. So the exercises we do, like, they should help make functioning in our daily lives easier, or at least prepare us for that time, right? That we're gonna need to call on that stuff to do something, relatively. I say, right, we can say unexpected, but we should expect it, right?
Totally.
Those things are coming. They're going to happen.
Yep. Well, and also, speaking of which, it's pretty fantastic how much stronger my back has gotten. I kind of touched on it, but I had an accident quite a while ago, and after I injured my back pretty badly. Like, I've had lots of issues. I tell everybody I have the back of an 80-year-old woman, even though I'm not even close to that. But I can't carry things that are very heavy without throwing my back out. Like, my ribs would pop out of place. There's all kinds of weird stuff from muscle injury. And I would go to concerts. That was my thing. And in the most comfortable, ugliest shoes you could possibly imagine, which is hard for me, I would still be in pain after like 45 minutes or an hour at the show. However, I know you remember this. A few months ago, when everything opened up again and we could go to concerts, I had my first concert since everything shut down. Thanks, COVID. And 2.5 hours into the show, I'm walking out to my car and I realized, oh, crap, I'm not in pain. And I didn't need to sit down. I was fine. I actually could stand a lot longer if I wanted to. And I'm pretty proud I was in 3-inch heels, 0 problems whatsoever. And that was a huge moment for me. My back was stronger where I could hold myself without being in pain and injuring myself. That is functional fitness.
That is functional fitness. That's exactly it. And you don't have the back of an 80-year-old.
I don't have the back of an 80-year-old anymore. Maybe 50-something, but getting better.
You know what? I have some like close to 80-year-olds, right? Who or more. Like, I've had patients. I had a patient who came to see me on his 100th birthday, came to physical therapy. That was awesome. And that dude, and the people that I get to work with, because we do these things, like, they are outperforming. They're outperforming their peers by like a long, like, it's not even it's not even close, right? But like I was telling one of our regulars the other day, he's in here doing stuff with us. He's 65 years old, which isn't like old, but he's in here like he runs circles around some of the people I know that are 25 years younger than him.
Dude, he kicked my butt on the sled. I thought I was being all badass, and then he's like, wait a minute. And his sled was heavier. He comes running by you. Yeah, he had like 35 pounds more on his sled, and I thought I was so cool whipping past him, and he just flew right past me. No problem.
It's pretty funny. But yeah, like, that's the stuff that we get to do. Right. And we can look forward to a future of being able to continue to do those things. Like, that to me is super motivating. Like, I want to be able to do this shit forever.
Yes.
Right. So that's how we do it. But, again, nothing against the, whatever your sport of choice, train for that, do that. And, when the time comes that you need the functional fitness stuff, it'll be there.
That's right.
All right. So what kind of action items do we want to give people this week?
Well, you did have a client not too long ago, and you did a pretty cool activity with them that I really liked, and I think we should do that.
Oh, God.
Just a couple moves every day.
Okay. Okay. All right. You're super smart. Yes, I am. so then I'm going to give you 3 moves to do every day, right? We went over the foundational movements, right? So who you're talking about was, someone right, who just has not been exercising at all, right,
Mm-hmm.
for like a really long time. They're like, how do I put it into my routine? And so I just gave her like 3 really simple things to do. So you can choose, when you do them, right? For her, it was like choose a routine time,
Mm-hmm.
something you do every single day without fail, like you walk in your door every single day after work or whatever.
And also, just to interject, if you're listening to this and you're like, I don't work out, I'm not active, listen to what he just said. This was for someone who wanted to be active and hadn't been active and wasn't working out. So anyone can do this. Even if you haven't done a single thing towards fitness in the last 10 years, you can do this.
Totally. Yeah. So what did we give her? We started out with 5 push-ups, right? Those can be like against the counter,
Mm-hmm.
or other, like modified another way, like against the counter, against maybe if a counter is too easy, you can go down to a chair or the arm of a couch, something like that. You can go all the way down to the floor if you're into it. They can be done from the knees as well. So 5 push-ups, 5 squats. Remember to squat like a gorilla. Stick your butt out, keep your chest up, and look forward. Remember where your head goes, your back tends to go. And 5 lunges. Those are where I really start people out. A bonus if you have a TRX. Look at this.
You have one of those.
You have a suspension trainer. One of these things, right? Straps. This thing's going to totally hang in the way, isn't it? It totally is. Oh, well.
That's okay.
That's all right.
They'll remember we have suspension trainers here at our Contra Costa Fitness Studio in Concord, California.
Right. So, yeah, and then if you can throw a pulling movement in, that's always great as well. So just like a row. But I'll start you with those 3. 5 push-ups, 5 squats, 5 lunges. Those are great movements to start out with, just to start practicing. And that'll take you like no time at all.
Exactly. Right. And I actually think that's pretty perfect. It's a great place to start at home. And as you feel like you can handle it, or maybe you need a little bit more, just bump those bad boys up to 10 reps. And then maybe you bump it up to 15 and so on. Not only will these things be helpful to function better on a daily basis, but it could be the start of building a pretty healthy and beneficial fitness routine. And when you get to the point where you're like, God, doing 20 push-ups, 20 squats, and 20 lunges is just not enough. I really need somebody to help me bump up my game. We've got lots of great functional fitness classes right here at Contra Costa Fitness that will help you increase those functional fitness movements and up your game a little bit.
Totally. You can always book a session with me as well. Ooh. That's like, I don't want to like sell things while I'm here, but I mean, that's a possibility. I do online sessions and in-person sessions. And my favorite thing in the world is to talk to people about what it is that means something to them, one movement or what movements they need to be able to do, break those down, and we can get started on something simple like that. Okay, well, you want to, be able to get up the stairs. Yeah, those lunges, or having just practicing stepping up on a stair is one at a time. However, whatever it may be, like that's my favorite thing in the world. So if that is something that you need, that's always an option too. But yep, functional workouts, we got tons of them. If you have questions, ask us. And you got anything else, or are you getting out of here?
Oh, no, I think it's time to wrap this bad boy up.
Wrap it up. Okay, well, thank you guys for being here. We love you guys.
We do.
And we care about you, so reach out if you have questions. And keep doing what you guys do. Be part of your community. Lift people up. If you need lifting up, reach a hand out. Make it known. Yeah, we're totally here. And keep doing what you do and making this community what it is, a community. Love you guys. We're out of here.
Bye.